takes a lot of energy to produce serotonin in the brain. Serotonin has to be produced in your brain. You can't just give someone IV serotonin. It doesn't even cross the blood-brain barrier.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so those manufacturing plants have to be there. And if those manufacturing plants are underperforming, the pharmaceutical looks like, hey, it's a good choice because now the depression is starting to lift. We're seeing good results, but it's been at the expense that there's not enough serotonin being vacuumed back up. So now the already depleted neuron is having to try to produce even more, which it couldn't even produce enough to begin with.
So what's the answer? More of the pharmaceutical?
So the answer is more of the pharmaceutical and additional pharmaceuticals. And this is how people become what we call psychiatric cripples.
Yeah.
They came in with bad depression, they got put on a drug, it seemed to work for a while. Now a year later they're having to have higher doses. Now they're having to have additional medicines. Now we're having to change medicines, and that's why they have to be monitored and seen by the doctor all the time, where no one actually tried to tell them, why isn't that you were not making enough serotonin to begin with? This is a problem that can be fixed through nutrition and lifestyle. And then we don't have to have the side effects, because the side effects of blocking those vacuum cleaners is it causes an I don't care attitude. So even when you should be happy, you're not as happy as you would be otherwise.
Right, and people can understand that. You get people who take psych meds and they just kind of end up kind of blah.
They're more flat. Things that they should care about, an I don't care attitude persists, and so they don't do some things that really they should be doing or intervening in certain situations because there's a predominant I don't care attitude. Now a lot of people like that effect when they have crying spells, because they don't want to care as much because they don't cry now anymore, and so they're willing to put up with this sort of thing. But it also worsens impulsivity, and impulsivity is something that's associated with suicide. And that's why they all have black box warnings. Here we are giving someone a drug to help their depression that's going to worsen their impulsivity before it improves their depression. So many suicides occur during the first month of taking these medicines. And if we fix it through nutrition and lifestyle, we can not only improve depression and improve mood, but we can increase their self-control. We can, in other words, make them less impulsive. And at the same time, their ability to care for others and even themselves goes up instead of the opposite direction, because we're taking care of the primary defect of why they weren't able to make enough of that neurotransmitter or have enough of the receptors. So nutrition and lifestyle measures are amazing in regards to what they can do with the mental health once we understand what that particular biochemical defect is. And of course, that's, as an internal medicine doctor and as a GI doctor, I'm used to studying all these neurotransmitters. They're used in the gut and all of those things. And so we've been able to come up with ways, looking at epigenetics and other things, where we can precisely see what the defect is and get to that.
So a question I think that's worth asking here, and it may be out of sequence or it may not be, why are people dealing with a lack of, let's say, serotonin or other important chemicals in the brain? Why is someone at the place where they need treatment and they end up on some sort of pharmaceutical regimen? What's going on that this is being experienced at all?
Well, that's a great question, because it's being experienced at a much higher level today.
Right.
And so it's a common question, what's different about humanity today? And of course, it depends on the individual. There's multiple steps involved in being able to make these neurotransmitters and build up the receptors. But some of the more common things that are happening is the typical American, 91% of their time is spent indoors.
91%?
91% indoors. And our brains are actually made to be outdoors at least an hour or more a day, because the bright light through our eyes stimulates serotonin production. The bright light also, in regards to the sun, protects our mitochondria, our energy-producing cells in the brain, so that they can actually produce more serotonin. That's the infrared light that comes from the sun that actually penetrates the skull And these mitochondrial areas of the brain are all on the surface of the brain, what we call the gray matter. And that surface area is where the infrared penetrates. It doesn't penetrate beyond the gray matter very much. It doesn't need to, because we don't have those mitochondria in the white matter. And so with all of the screens in the indoor time, we are seeing a shift. The other aspect is these devices that many people are utilizing. Instead of watching a program like this and really focusing in on it, they're constantly being distracted.
Yes.
They get on their cell phone to do something, and then they see a text, and then they see a push notification, and then they see some sort of news notification, then someone sends them a Snapchat, and 15 minutes later they're trying to figure out, why did I get on my phone to begin with,
right,
before I got distracted.
Yeah.
When the brain is continually distracted, it shuts down the anterior cingulate gyrus in the frontal lobe. That's the area that we need for focused attention. It actually begins to shrink that area down, and that's the area that we need to manage distressing emotions. So our ability to manage distressing emotions goes way down just as a result of the normal use of smartphones. And after smartphones were introduced in 2012, in every country of the world, once 50% of the people owned a smartphone, rates of depression and anxiety skyrocketed.
In every country of the world?
Every country of the world.
You know what you were saying a moment ago, talking about the way the infrared light and brains are made to be outside, or bodies are created to be outside and so forth. First thing I was thinking there was, wow, what a design job. What an incredible way the body was designed, the brain was made, the eyes work to receive this and see that in the sun. Everything made incredibly. The Bible says we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Some people understand that. Somebody who really understands that is the devil. Because a lot of what he's done has been to interrupt these natural processes and prevent what otherwise would happen. But he somehow has lured us into a lifestyle where we now damage ourselves. In fact, where we now probably realize we're damaging ourselves, just don't care enough to do much about it.
Boy, isn't that the truth?